Hey, how are you? Happy Saturday afternoon. Just went over noon. I am Chris Robin, aka at Detroit Beastie, here with Fantasy Six Pack to talk about a three-game slate on a Saturday in the middle of November. And this is if you're a sports betting fanatic, a DFS slappy like I am, then this is like the Christmas before the Christmas. We get three unbelievably good games. I can run them down, although we know what's going to be going on tonight. At 1 o'clock, Minnesota is in Cincinnati. The Pittsburgh goes to take on the Colts, and then the Denver Broncos storm Ford Field here in Detroit for the late game, which is at 8:15. And Detroit, downtown, Ford Field, everything's going to be absolutely insane because the Lions need to win this game. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And again, I am a Lions fan, but this broadcast isn't about my fandom. This broadcast is about what we can do to move things around to play the Saturday only slate. And I've looked at this sucker all week, right? And I've spent I had a cup of coffee this morning and I sat down and I started building lines. And there's a lot of goodness we can get into it, right? And so I'm not going to make this broadcast about reading down, the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks, and then these are going to be the few running backs that I want to run with and their projections. I'm going to sit here for 30 to 40 minutes and let's build some lines together, right? And so that I'm going to need you in the comments to kind of play along. Like if I'm talking and I say, you know what, I'd love to put Mitch Trubisky as my starting quarterback, and I'm going to pair him with Deontay and George Pickens. Where am I? I'm struggling with what tight end. Like, please, whatever you want to say in the comments, just let them fly because I'm seeing them. We have a producer here. Shout out to Mike LaPlante. He's the producer. So this is going to be an interactive, impromptu Saturday morning, Saturday early afternoon broadcast in advance of the 1 p.m. kickoff. And that game, the 1 p.m. game, is Minnesota at Cincinnati. So let's start with them. I will do that. I will go through each game briefly and give you my synopsis. And I have final scores. I have every team that I think is going to win, the final score, the recent betting trends, and I have some guys I'm almost certain will score a touchdown here. So let's start with Minnesota at Cincinnati. Before we do that, Malcolm Merriweather asked me, who would you start, Devonta Smith or Justin Jefferson? Well, given the fact that we're kind of doing a Saturday only broadcast right now, and Devonta plays, on the main slate on Sunday, that would be up to you. Of the two, I would probably prefer Devonta Smith just because it's a main slate. There's a lot more going into that slate. On Saturday, if you're playing the Saturday only slate, it would be Justin Jefferson because Devonta Smith isn't available on the Saturday only slate. But of the two, I would prefer Devonta Smith just based on it being Sunday, and there's a lot more room for error, going on a main slate. There are all the other games are being played. But when you look at Justin Jefferson here tonight, Saturday, his ownership percentage is going to be through the roof, and rightfully so. And again, when I get to that game, I'll give you some projections, what I have Justin Jefferson to go for. But for me, it would be Devonta Smith in a seasonal format. I assume this is a seasonal format question, or it could be a DFS and sports betting question. I'm not sure how to take that one. So let's look at, let me click another link here. And I'll get to that question briefly. Thoughts on DST for these 3 games. I'll get to that, I promise. I have a few ideas there. Trust me, I got everything covered. So if you can hang for the next 15 to 20 minutes, just boo, I will get to you. I try and answer everything that I can. I'm a man of the people, I'd like to say. But let's start briefly. I'm going to zoom through each game for time purposes. And we would look at the Minnesota Vikings. They go to Cincinnati, and right now Minnesota is getting 3 points. Cincinnati's laying it down. They're because they have Jake Browning as their quarterback. But in this game, if any of you have ever used an optimizer, right? You just click optimize, the line is there, you enter, and boom, there's no grunt work that's needed to do this thing. And when you get to the Minnesota side of things, the cheap option would be Nick Mullins at quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. He's only 6'5", on FanDuel. And when I slide over and look at what he is on DraftKings, he can't be much more because it's Nick Mullins. He's only $5,000 on DraftKings. And truth be told, I think Nick Mullins can have a good game here within reason, given his price tag. And to be fair, I said this on Friday, which was yesterday, that I think Cincinnati does win this game. Final score 24-17. So Nick Mullins, Justin Jefferson, Addison, and then Ty Chandler, all these guys. You got all these guys, that are just rumbling. I only have Minnesota scoring 17 points. So we're going to have to be concise with where we go and where we pick our Minnesota Vikings here. And Justin Jefferson would absolutely be one of them. I also like, what's the rookie kid's name? Addison. But I like him, but I've seen, from going last night into this morning, he's kind of fallen out of favor with me personally. And it's not a DVP thing, and it's not a price tag thing. Jordan Addison on FanDuel is 6'5", a little high for my taste. But given I have Jordan Addison, maybe, 3 to 4 targets, 4 to 5 targets, 3 to 4 receptions, 35 to 40 yards. If he catches a touchdown, I'll look like a doofus, but that's okay, because this 3-game slate, right? Normally 3-game slates are like, they're yucky. They suck. These 3 games, as I said, Minnesota, Cincinnati, Pitt, Indy, Detroit, and Denver, they're absolutely loaded with wide receivers, right? The running backs are okay, but if I could say one thing about this overall slate, is it is chocked full with studly wide receivers. So if you can start building lineups, right, and you pump in 3 stud wide receivers, I'd use another stud wide receiver in my flex spot, unless we'll get to it, unless you're going to go that TJ Hawkinson and Sam Laporta, the double tight end stack. You put one in the tight end spot, and then you put the other one in the flex spot. On the flip side of the football, when we look at the Cincinnati Bengals, we all know what's going on there. Joe Burrow is out and inactive, but Jake Browning came in. That Monday Night Football game a few weeks ago, he was like, he came up and they won in overtime. And it's like, okay, maybe Jake Browning can support multiple offensive talents like Jamar Chase, like Higgins, Boyd, and even Joe Mixon. But one thing we've seen over the last few weeks, there's actually 2 of them. I'm going to start with the tight end, Tanner Hudson. This guy was seeing no more than 4 targets a game at tight end when Joe Burrow was the quarterback. And then when Joe went down, you're like, oh boy. But guess what? Tanner Hudson has remained in a steadily, it has gotten a good workload in favor and with Jake Browning. So Tanner Hudson, put that one to the side, that I think Tanner Hudson is a beautiful play on this slate at tight end. But when we go back to the Cincinnati Bengals offensive skill positions, what are you going to do with Jamar Chase? Of course, you're going to play him. We saw all the highlights this past week, people in the locker room, it's funny to me. Well, I'm looking for something that could be a makeshift microphone, right? You just took a shower, you're nude, you're in the locker room, and there's like 5 people around you, and they all got microphones in your face, and you're like, dude, I'm nude, I'm dripping wet. Give me a second to dry off. No, well, Chase, what do you think about that? Chase, what do you think? Just let me dry off and put some clothes on, and I will answer your questions, and we'll go from there. But Jamar Chase, to me today, of course, he's a stone cold stud. And when you look at the DVP here, Minnesota 20th overall against defending opposing wide receivers. So to me, Jamar Chase very much on the map here today. And I have Jamar Chase at his regularly scheduled, stat line, and it'll end in a touchdown reception. Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, won't spend a bunch of time there. I do want to talk about this kid, Chase Brown, briefly, because we saw him in the last few weeks. He's been slowly climbing, kind of like that Price is Right game where the guy, the lady, and he climbs and climbs and climbs and climbs. And then it all came to a head last week where he caught 3 passes, and one of them was like a 70 or 80-yard touchdown pass, zoom, right down the sideline. So again, normal folks that play this sport will go, oh my God, if that's what he can do, he's going to do it. He's going to do it again this week. I'm going to caution you. Chase Brown is not going to score a 70, 80-yard reception touchdown every game. Is it possible this week? Sure, anything is possible. The sun could fall out of the sky. I could win $10 million on a scratcher when I leave here. But is it reasonable that would happen? Probably not. But I also will say this morning when I was building lines and working on optimizers, Chase was popping up in a lot of them, as well as the Minnesota guy, Ty Chandler. Ty and Chase Brown were popping up in a lot of my optimizers. So I wrote that down. I love that running back combo as a cheapie spot here where you can do Ty Chandler and Chase Brown, and then that leaves you wide open at the wide receiver spots. And when I say wide open, you're able to stack up Amon-Ra, you're able to put in Chase, you're able to put in Justin Jefferson, and then you can put in Michael Pittman in the flex. So you could, with those two running backs, you could have the four best wide receivers on the slate in the same lineup. And it's not all that junky. You would think, well, if you stack up all four of those stud wide receivers, you got to be eating shit somewhere else. Not really. I'm telling you, it's not really. And when this broadcast is over, I'm going to get us out of here well before 1 o'clock. And I will share some of the lineups that I have built this way. And when you look at it, I'm going to bring it up really quick here, probably not very professional to open my phone while we're here. But I'm looking at, it would mainly be the Broncos DST is what you would have to kind of be comfortable with in the DST portion of the realm if you stacked up those four wide receivers, but it's just a process of elimination. If I have Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, and Pittman, they're going to go bonkers, where in my DST, all I need is a 4 or 5 points, and we are rolling. So let's go to the next game briefly, and that one would be the Pittsburgh Steelers go to the Colts. This one, the kickoff is at 4:30 p.m. We get Mitch Trubisky versus Gardner Minshew. Again, football is such a crazy thing, right? We thought we knew, going into the season where it was going to be, the rookie Anthony Richardson team for the Colts, and on the Pittsburgh side, it was going to be Kenny Pickett, and he was going to take the next step forward. And again, everything crumbles, and that's not the case. And it looks as though Pittsburgh feels comfortable going back to Mitch Trubisky. And given the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive lineup here, it looks pretty good in Indianapolis, to maybe get that, to get moving and get that going. This game is the closest game I have on Saturday overall in terms of a final score. The final score to me, it's going to be around 23-21, and I'll save who wins at the end of the spiel here. But when we look at Pittsburgh, Jaylen Warren, the running back, is another guy who's popped up in a lot of my optimizers or just in my notes as I've been moving around. And if I listen to the optimizer constantly, I used to in my early days before, like when I was still figuring all this stuff out, I would just, hit optimize and enter that lineup. And then if that was the case today, every single lineup I would have would be Jaylen Warren and Ty Chandler in Minnesota. And I don't like that. And that we're able to move the pieces around. I will say Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, that combination is doing something for me, just given the fact that the Indianapolis Colts on paper, they're 12th overall against opposing wide receivers here. But if Mitch Trubisky, the last time we saw Mitch, it wasn't good. It was awful. They were booing him in his own stadium, and we want Mason Rudolph. But at the end of the game, he kind of came through, and it was okay. And so in between then, I think it's been about 10 days since the game I'm talking about to getting to now. I think Mitch Trubisky will be okay getting Deontay Johnson and George Pickens the ball. That's another, how can you put that? Like a combo stack, the two guys from the same team that play the same position. I have no issue with that. And I know people are going to say, when you look at the comments, what are we going to do with Najee Harris? Najee Harris is a phenomenal phenomenal play as well. But the only difference is Najee Harris on FanDuel at least is $6,200 and Jaylen Warren is only $5,600. So you're looking at, what is that, a difference of $600 difference. And when you look at what I have projected for their point totals, I have Najee around 10.5 total FanDuel points. I have Jaylen Warren around 9.8 FanDuel points. So you're looking at a difference of a point and a half, if that. And so to me, I'd rather use Jaylen Warren, and I'd use that leftover cash and use Jaylen Warren and throw Najee Harris out. When you look at the tight end there, Pat Freiermuth, can he be on our radar? Sure, because the Indianapolis Colts are the 22nd against them, but there are some absolutely stone cold stud tight ends in this 3-game slate that I'd prefer here. When we look at the Indianapolis Colts here, any questions, I will answer them as I see them pop up. And I want questions. I want you to keep asking and going from there, because this thing only works if we're working together. I'm helping you, you're helping me, and we are rolling. So if you see something during the length of this broadcast that I missed, or if you're sitting in front of your computer like I am right now, with a pen and a piece of paper, and not copying what I'm saying, I'm not doing that. I'm saying you're sitting building your lineups and listening to me at the same time. If you come to if a light bulb pops off and you have an eureka moment, let me know in the comments. Say, oh my God, Chris, get this. I'm building kind of how you were suggesting, and look what I came upon of, and just ask it and we'll go from there. But when we look at where was I'm going strong because I am so amped up for today's action here. When we look at the Colts, everybody and their mother is going to be on Zach Moss, and that's cool, right? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers 20th overall against opposing running backs here. Michael Pittman has to be in any and all lineups if you're playing the Saturday only slate. I know there's a Saturday night one where it's just the last 2 games. It's Pittsburgh, Indy, Denver, Detroit. I'm not messing with that. I'm messing with Saturday as a whole here. So Zach Moss to me, 6.6 on FanDuel, Pittsburgh 20th overall in DVP, as I was saying. And to be fair, when you look at the Indianapolis Colts, and I have them to lose, but it's going to be close, 23-21. Pittsburgh wins this one. And there's something going on in Pittsburgh, kind of the same way I look at it as what's going on in New England with Bill Belichick, right? Tomlin's won a Super Bowl, but he doesn't have the dynasty and the rings as Bill Belichick has had. But it looks as though Pittsburgh, that Tomlin's run his course in Pittsburgh. And I think the team knows that. I think everybody in the facility knows that. And I'm not saying that just because, your starting players and your team knows that they're going to go out there and completely flop, right? I know that they love this guy. Tomlin is one of the better coaches of all time, especially in my era. So they're not going to give up and quit on the guy. And Pittsburgh, last I looked, they can still put some wins together and make it into the wild card last I checked. So let's finish up this Pittsburgh the Colts offensive things. I love Josh Downs, the rookie. He's got some flavor in there, and he's only 5.5 on FanDuel. Alec Pierce is another guy here. You see him. Josh Downs and Alec Pierce have been in bottom of the barrel week after week after week, and they continue to make good on that. But of the two, when you look at Josh Downs, 5.5 on FanDuel, Alec Pierce is $5,000 on FanDuel, and in terms of projected points, I have Josh Downs with about 2.5 more points scored than Alec Pierce or Josh Downs. Excuse me, that my stupid alarm threw me off there. So when we look at this game, as I said, I have Pittsburgh to win this one 23-21, and there's a lot of juiciness to be plucked out of this thing. When we go to the night game here, it's downtown Detroit, Ford Field. This place is going to be rocking. And to be fair, if I may set aside the DFS, all my DFS and sports betting stuff for a second, everybody on earth knows it's in my Twitter name, for God's sakes, Detroit Beastie. I've been a Detroit Lions fan since I was a little kid. And to be fair, the Lions have to win this game. If they lose this game, they open themselves up to a whole set of problems if Minnesota wins, earlier in the day, or if Green Bay wins at home against Tampa on Sunday. So just it's kind of one of those things where that you got up, a few games in the division, you're in the driver's seat, and what the heck can the Lions do to get this thing back right? Because their offense is awesome, their defense stinks, but again, they're at home. So when you look at their splits, when you look at Jared Goff's splits on the road and at home, they're completely different, right? When Jared Goff plays outside on grass, he's awful. Look at what he did not do in Chicago last week. So, when we look at the Lions here, let's start. No, you know what? Let's start with Denver briefly, because I've loved the idea of stacking Denver just based on the fact that the Detroit Lions defense has been unable to stop anybody in the last, 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even the last 5 weeks here. And the way to do that would be with Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos wide receivers. Everything else, that the Detroit Lions are very good against defending running backs. I think they're 5th or 6th overall. So Javonte, Samaje Perine. But again, Samaje Perine, in a way, you could see him. Yes, he's listed as a running back, but he does a lot of work out of the backfield catching passes. So that could make him a wide receiver. And then that would bump him up into the DVP category, where the Lions are 23rd overall against defending those kind of guys. So Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, that 1-2 combo has to be in a certain amount of lineups, because when I look at my final score for this game, I'm thinking well over right now, the over-under is 47.5. I think that completely smashes. I think we're looking at like a 35-28 kind of final score here, and what a way to end the night. So to me, this game, if we're going to play the Saturday only slate, this is the game we want to start with when we build, and then we can mix and match, Colts and Steelers and Bengals and Vikings if we want. But this is the game, the hub. We start from here. We, like a flow chart. We build, Detroit and Tennessee, and then we build out from there, because Russell Wilson will be able to. I know I have Russell Wilson was in bottom of the barrel this week, since I can read you what I have for Russ Wilson. I have him for around, a touchdown on the ground, 2 touchdowns, in the air. So if Russ Wilson is going to throw 2 touchdowns, more than likely one of them is going to go to Jerry Jeudy. Heck, both of them could go to Jerry Jeudy. So do not enter a line for Saturday only without Courtland Sutton. I'm telling you now, and even Jerry Jeudy to a certain extent, I could see both guys catching a touchdown here. And again, their price tags are very reasonable and they're very doable. When we look at the Detroit Lions side of things, it's the complete opposite, right? The Denver Broncos are very, very good against defending wide receivers. They're 7th overall, so does that mean Amon-Ra St. Brown is a fade? Absolutely not. He is one of those guys that it doesn't matter if there's a brick wall on the other side of things. Amon-Ra St. Brown will do his thing. But where you want to get in on the action would be that David Montgomery, the rookie Jahmyr Gibbs combo. And I've been stacking those two guys across the board every week of the season, even in seasonal formats. In the fishbowl, I drafted both guys, and I've done well just based on that fact. And get this, the Denver Broncos are dead last against defending opposing running backs. And again, the Lions are at home. We've seen, how many games have we seen when the Lions are at home? David Montgomery scores a touchdown. Gibbs they're each going to get one. Who's going to get the 2? Who's going to get the 3? I could make a case here where they both get 2 touchdowns apiece in this one. 1 on the air, 2 on the ground, no matter which way you slice it. So again, do not build a lineup here for today without Courtland Sutton and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And when we go down the list a little bit, Jameson Williams is kind of making me nervous just based on the DVP that the Denver brings, but he's only $5,100. But every time the Lions are at home at Ford Field, it seems like it seems like Jameson Williams is able to find his way into the end zone. There's a lapse in coverage, or he's just so fast, he gets over that. So to me, Jameson Williams, not a must. If that's what you want to do, have at it. If you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking, then run with it. But when we get to Sam Laporta, your ears perk up because, again, Denver 31st overall against opposing tight ends. So to me, this game, granted, it's the last game of the day here today. It's the last game of the day, but this is the first game that I looked at when I started building my lines and going from there. I'll answer any questions right now, and then I'm going to get into maybe just going with the flow and looking at some of the lineups I already have built here in front of me and telling you why I made that decision that I made. And again, before we get to questions, if there are any, I'll scroll up right now. People are just saying they're joined. I thank everybody for being here. I know this was an impromptu kind of broadcast, but I know, Saturday, just, mid-December football on a Saturday reminds me at least of like wild card weekend. That when I was a kid, wild card weekend was always on a Saturday, and you're going to your family's house. It was always like Christmas Eve-ish, right? Christmas Eve was wild card weekend, and it was great, and it was always Saturday. But this is the regular season, and we're adults now, and we have money, and we're able to gamble. So I'm throwing everything I got into this slate here for today. So any questions or comments, let them fly, and I promise you I will get to them. We're going to be around about another 5 to 10 minutes. We'll cut this thing off. I only want it to be 25 to 30 minutes, and we're right there, and we're right there. And David asks, Michael, if you could see that one, would you be against a double Steelers running back play? Absolutely not. I love the idea of a double Pittsburgh Steelers running backs combo, and I'll tell you why, because when you look at Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, the Indianapolis Colts 29th overall against opposing running backs here, and in a way you can trust. Najee Harris has been, how can you put that? Najee Harris has been steady Eddie all season. Granted, he's not gonna give you a goose egg, but rarely have we seen a ceiling game from Najee Harris that's this season, and that's okay. He's even Steven, steady Eddie, whatever other weird cliches you want to use. Well, and then so you put that in as a safe bet for Harris, and then when you put in Warren, he's the guy that can break this thing open on a 75-yard reception, on a screen or a reverse or something. So those two guys, those two Pittsburgh Steelers running backs together in the same lineup is an outstanding idea, and I've already booked it several times in several lines. So that's a great question, and absolutely. And I do want to further, if I may, there is, given the fact that there's only 3 games here on Saturday, so 3 games, 6 teams, nothing is weird, nothing is off limit. So if you're looking at your lineup and you're going, well, I want to use 2 tight ends. I want to use, let's say, Adam Troutman and TJ Hawkinson. Is that weird? No, absolutely no. Whatever you feel in your gut when you're building it, let it be, because I'm telling you, 3 games, anything can happen, and we'll go from there. So I'll give you a taste, a few lineups that I built. And at this point, maybe grab a pen and a piece of paper if you want to write these down. I have no problem. And if you want to enter them as well, no problem. I've had them booked for a while. One of my favorite lines that I've written, or that I've had put together so far, is it starts with Russell Wilson at quarterback. And mind you, this is FanDuel. I'm a FanDuel freak. I play on FanDuel. It goes, Russell Wilson is my quarterback. Zach Wilson and David Montgomery are my running backs. Deontay Johnson, Addison in Minnesota, Cortland Sutton. Those are my 3 wide receivers. So Deontay Johnson, Addison, and Sutton. And then I went with that double tight end deal. TJ Hawkinson and Sam Laporta. It's Laporta in the flex, TJ in the tight end spot, and then the Denver Broncos at defense. And you could say, well, Chris, you're going to run with the Broncos defense, right? But you got Laporta in there. You got David Montgomery in there. It's all well and good. Dave says it the best. It doesn't matter how many points are scored. When you're looking at a DST, you're just looking for batted balls, interceptions, fumble recoveries, things along those lines. So to me, the only way to make this line work was to pick, if I'm not mistaken, the cheapest DST on the slate. And I think it's done. Yeah, it is Denver. It goes Denver, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Colts, and then the Cincinnati Bengals are the most expensive. So Kyle Koss says, Cincinnati fan here, smash that Chase Brown over 22.3 rushing yards. Absolutely correct. I agree with you. And toss him in a DFS line, and we can move on. How about this one? I'll give you a Nick Mullins line that's already built and booked here. So Nick Mullins is the starting quarterback today for the Minnesota Vikings. I guess they thought better against Josh Dobbs because he was a dart. If you remember, Dobbs was like the darling, right? A couple weeks ago, I think he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated because he was an astronaut and he's very smart and whatever space studies he had going on. But now Nick Mullins is going to get the start here, and if you're going to play Nick Mullins, you better make sure you get a guy, one of two of the guys. You're either going to have TJ Hawkinson in that lineup, or you're going to have Justin Jefferson in that lineup, because I don't think you can make a case where you can play Nick Mullins naked. But like, what is Nick Mullins going to do? And naked means just him, no other players from the same team around him. But yet, as I say this lineup is a naked Nick Mullins line, and we'll see what we get, because that is, I've entered probably 50 entries in that 50 cent GPP. Goes Nick Mullins, David Montgomery, Jaylen Warren, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman, Hudson as the Cincinnati tight end, Jamar Gibbs at flex, and then the Minnesota Vikings as the DST here. And I could keep scrolling and scrolling. I got a Wilson lineup. I got a Minshew lineup. I got a Jake Browning lineup. So if you hear something as I'm talking and you're like, yeah, I want to hear that line, just let me know, because we're going to get out of here really soon here. I have more Mullins and Gardner Minshew lines than I thought I had. But here's a golf line. Let's go through the golf line really quick, if I can find it, and then we will get the heck out of here. And in the meantime, while this lineup is loading, make sure you go to the website at fantasy6pack.net. And right now they have a wonderful promo. It's FF Playoffs, and you'll get 25% off any premium package that you're into. And again, as the seasonal fantasy playoffs are starting, you're going to want to be here, because this website, it always stays top 5, top 10 in terms of ranking. So if you're in a tough spot in a playoff matchup, head to Fantasy Six Pack. I'm telling you, they'll take care of you. And if you're out of the fantasy playoffs, no harm, no foul there. I'm out as well. Everybody, succumbs to that one way or another. And if you're just looking for some DFS action, some sports betting action, some betting leans, me and Keith and Dave and Alan can help you get that. And all you got to do is get to the website, use FF Playoffs. You'll get 25% off and full access to the Discord. And I know without a single doubt in my mind, Dave at Corporal Eddie, he puts all of his stuff on the Discord before anybody ever sees it in a broadcast form, in terms of his cash plays, his player pools, things along those lines. So Kyle Costa, Cincinnati fan here, smash that. Yep, we went through that. That is a wonderful thing. Just make sure you get to the website. And again, it is December 16th, and that means Christmas is right around the corner. So if it's not for you, why can't you gift your boss, or what if your wife or your husband or your wife? Hey, I got you a premium membership to Fantasy Six Pack because I love you, honey, and I know that you like DFS, and I know you're always playing seasonal fantasy football. So I bought you a premium package to kind of get you over the hump here, because if you win money, we all win money, and then I can go to Target and spend all your that's the kind of conversation I think I would see in my head. But before we get out of here, let me just give you the one more lineup, the Jared Goff lineup here, and it starts with golf. And I have Ty Chandler as my running back, Jaylen Warren, Michael Pittman, Sutton, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta as my tight end, Zach Moss as my flex play, and then the Minnesota Vikings as my DST. So before I split, thank you everybody for being here. We're about 34 minutes into this thing, and this was just an impromptu broadcast, because I didn't want to have all the fans of Fantasy Six Pack, kind of going, what are we doing? We got no one to talk to us about this slate. And I said, you know what? let me get in on a Saturday morning and talk to these folks, because if I'm spending all this time doing all these notes and just pens that just go out of ink so quick and notebooks that get filled so quick, what's the point of doing all that if I can't share it with all of you? So I thank you all for being here. You can bring that question back up again, Mike, if you want. It said Browning, Chase, Hudson stack, or is that too many Bengals? Absolutely not. I love that stack because, let me find here, I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning this game 24-17. So you're looking at least 3 touchdowns scored in that game. So what are the chances that Browning doesn't throw a touchdown to Chase, doesn't throw a touchdown to Hudson? Boom. How about the case that Browning would throw 2 touchdowns to Chase and then the third one to Hudson, and then that stack would be nuclear and you're rolling. And that could realistically happen here, given the fact that as I said, I think Cincinnati wins 24-17. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers to win 23-21, and I have the Detroit Lions to win by 10 at home, 31-21, in a game that I don't know if I'll be able to watch because I get so anxious and I don't know, but it's going to be the only thing on a Saturday night, so I'm sure I'll watch it. So until I see you again, more than likely tomorrow morning at noon, we're going to get together and go over the main slate, me and Dave, and then followed by the Sunday Night Football video, which is let me double check this. The Sunday Night Football video is going to be the Baltimore Ravens at Jacksonville. That'll be a good one, followed by Philadelphia at Seattle on Monday Night Football. So be good, be safe, enjoy the Saturday. Hopefully your Christmas tree is already up. If not, this would be a perfect time to put it up. Have some football on, have a fire going, whatever you got, whatever you have. So thanks for being here. I appreciate all the love and support, and I will see you again soon, literally the same time tomorrow. I'll talk to everyone.